Video P.O.V drive. This time I'm going to test the Model Y, which is the sort of SUV variant of the Model 3. It sits on the same chassis and everything, like most crossovers do, except it is obviously taller than the Model 3, has more space than the Model 3, and is more expensive. This particular one I'm driving now is base price of $57,000, and the performance model is $62,000, so it's also more expensive than the Model 3. Initially, so I've been driving a bit before I began filming, so initially it is pretty similar to the Model 3 in that it feels pretty much the same. You know, it's a bit more cumbersome because it is an SUV, but it's got pretty much the same pickup, acceleration, feels pretty much the same, looks very much the same, except it's a bit taller and wider because it's an SUV. Very similar vehicle, except more expensive, which is nice. One thing I will say about this Model Y is, I kind of touched on this last time when I was driving the Model 3, is that it was pretty quick, but it didn't really make me smile. It didn't make me go, wow, that's really quite quick. But this one, I took it on the highway before I began filming this, and it at least does feel quite a bit faster than the Model 3. I don't know if this is the, I don't know why this is, but it does feel faster, and did in fact surprise me a bit. Yeah. So basically the conclusion last time from the Model 3 was that, you know, not a bad vehicle. I see why people buy them, but it wasn't overall. God, beeping at me there. It's quite high tech, this car. Yeah, I think someone was about to crash into the back of me, but they didn't, luckily. Yeah. So, yeah, conclusion last time was good, pretty good vehicle for, you know, people that aren't necessarily looking for a fun driving oriented vehicle. You know, it was comfortable, pretty quick, but it was very transactional. Honestly, I didn't quite get to this level of articulation in the video because I hadn't fully thought through it. But I did conclude afterwards that it was a very transactional feeling car. You know, it wasn't, it wouldn't necessarily motivate me personally, at least, to, you know, go out for a nice Sunday drive just for the heck of it. You know, it didn't really make me smile, or, you know, didn't make me really overall very surprised, or, you know, it didn't make me happy. It just sort of was a vehicle to get you from point A to point B. This one is pretty similar in that way, except it is, at least does feel a bit quicker, which is odd because it is obviously an SUV, some more weight, and aerodynamically it is quite different. So I imagined it would be slower, but in fact it is not. At least it doesn't feel that way. Got about 5 minutes. Well, I want to test out here, if I can, is the Autopilot. If I can figure out how to put that on. I think well, I can't do it now, I'm stuck at a light, but I think what the lady said was you pull down the gear stick, you pull it down twice. You pull it down once to engage drive, then you pull it down a second time to engage the autopilot. And when it's engaged, there's a little blue steering wheel that appears up at the top left of the big iPad. So I'm hoping to try that out once I get moving. That was a special thing Damon wanted me to test out. Is the autopilot. I'm kind of apprehensive, not gonna lie, because I know I have seen videos and, you know, read articles about, you know, people using the autopilot and then it gets afraid of its own shadow, or it... Okay. Trying to engage it. Okay, this is the autopilot. It is now driving me. I'm going along at precisely 34 miles an hour, and to disengage it, which I will have to do at this stoplight, oh, I guess, actually, no. It's slowing down for me. Wow, that's actually, wow. Bloody hell. Let's see when the light goes green, let's see what happens. Does it in fact move, or will I have to press the gas pedal? I think it should go for me. No? Okay. Maybe it disengages at lights. Pull it down twice again to engage it once more. That is pretty impressive. That is pretty... I have to say, I was apprehensive about using it, because just sort of thought, yeah, it's not gonna... You know, I thought, it's, you know, they still have a bit of, you know, a bit more work to do to get that fully functional, which I still sort of think maybe they do, but on a very basic level at least, they do sort of have that going. Pretty impressive. You know, stops, starts on its own. And I didn't die, which is something I thought would possibly happen, is that, you know, it may miscalculate and then I'd end up, you know, crashing, but in fact it didn't. So you have to be back in about 5 minutes. I'll just take another quick loop around the block, just to get a bit more content for you guys. Take a look at this light, hopefully. Come on, people, it's turning yellow. Yeah, so this, no, I didn't think it would be that impressive, but it kind of is more impressive, at least, than the Model 3, which was very much unexpected for me. I thought it would be less impressive, because it would logically at least be less fast because of aerodynamics and the weight issue, it being an SUV, but it is in fact seemingly more fast, and yeah, wow. So I'm still not sure I'd say that I like the car per se, but on one aspect, which is the speed, it is more impressive than the Model 3, which is quite a nice surprise, if I'm honest. Still doesn't make me want to take it for a Sunday drive just for the heck of it. You know, it's still not quite an enthusiast's car in my mind, at least not, you know, my criteria of, you know, what I want out of a car as a car enthusiast. You know, I find it quite ugly. That's one thing, and me personally, I don't like, I couldn't see myself driving a car that I didn't like the looks of. Yeah. Looks are quite important. Yeah. Yes, I don't really like the looks of it. Not a huge fan of the, yeah, not a huge fan that. Also, not a huge fan of the silence, like I mentioned many times in the previous video, the Model 3. I just don't like that it's, well, obviously, you know, it's electric, so it's gonna be pretty quiet, but I just don't like that. You know, I was talking about it with a couple of friends of mine, and I spoke about it on the podcast. And if they, you know, if car companies one day found a way to pump in exhaust / engine sounds from other internal combustion cars, you know, if they, say for example, pumped in the sound of maybe a Lamborghini Aventador or a 880 Super or something like that, then that would be, you know, if they pump that through the speakers on the inside of the car, then I would maybe not have such a big gripe about that. But for now, at least, it's either silence, or like Porsche do with the Taycan, it's like budget Star Trek special effects. It's really quite a weird dishwasher / washing machine type sound that I really do not like at all. Yeah. So, yep, so getting to the end of the drive now, back in the parking garage. And yeah, so overall the conclusion is pretty similar to that of the Model 3, and that is that it's, you know, I do still see why people would buy one, although it does beg the question, why wouldn't you just get a Ford Mach-E instead? But I suppose, you know, maybe people really like the idea of getting a Tesla. They know Tesla have been making EVs longer than Ford have. So I see it from that standpoint. But, you know, has no noises. The heck are you doing, man? Parking garage is pretty insane. Anyway, yeah, so, yeah, I see somewhat of the appeal, but overall, you know, it's got no sound. Obviously, I don't like the looks of it. The inside is, you know, I'm not quite used to not having an instrument cluster above the steering wheel. So that I'm not a huge fan of. I think the screen, the big iPad screen that kind of controls everything, is a bit convoluted, but yeah. So, and we get the no floatboard noise now that I'm backing up, which I also don't like, but yeah. Like, comment, subscribe, hope you enjoyed it.